They said the ship was empty, just a dead signal from a lost crew, a simple rescue job, in and out. But ghosts don't scream, and this one was still breathing. We found him floating in the med bay, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. His veins were black, his skin cracked, and yet he was alive. We tried to pull him out, but the pod pulsed like it was breathing, like it didn't want to let him go. He looked at us and mouthed one word: "Run." That was the last time we saw the light. Whatever is on that ship doesn't kill you. It waits, it learns. And when it finally speaks to you, you'll beg for death. But it won't come, because the worst thing in space is staying alive. The ship drifted near a dead moon, cold and quiet, like a grave floating in space. No lights blinked. No movement showed through the windows. Just a dark shape surrounded by endless black. It was the SS Providence, a deep space medical vessel that vanished 9 years ago with all hands on board. No one knew why it disappeared. No one expected it to come back. But last week, a signal began blinking on long-range channels, an old distress call, repeating the same broken message. Medical emergency, biohazard breach, do not enter. And then silence. Captain Ray stared at the dead ship through the viewing glass of his own vessel, the Wren. His face was hard, but his fingers tapped the edge of the console without stopping. Behind him, Engineer Milo clicked through scans, trying to find heat, movement, anything. There was nothing. "Power's dead," Milo said, "but the outer hull's intact. Life support's offline. Doors are sealed." Ray didn't look away. "Anyone alive?" Milo shook his head. "No life signs." But the signal was still playing, and something about that felt wrong. Medic June floated into the room, holding her medkit against her chest. Her voice was quiet. "We're really doing this?" Ray nodded. "We need to check it out. Could be survivors. Could be nothing." June didn't like it. Neither did Milo. But they were too far from help to ignore a distress signal. The rules were clear. Respond, investigate, report. There was one more with them, Eli, the youngest, newest crew member. He stood near the airlock, staring at the dark ship as it turned slowly in the void. He hadn't said a word. They docked within the hour. The connection clanked, sealed, and hissed with pressure equalizing. The door slid open, and a wave of stale air rolled in. It smelled like rust and cold metal. No movement, no sound. Ray stepped in first, flashlight cutting through the dark. June followed, then Milo. Eli stayed at the door for a long moment before stepping inside. The hallway was silent, walls lined with frost. Emergency lights flickered red every few seconds, just enough to show the peeling paint and scratches etched deep into the steel. Down the main corridor, they passed a smashed window. A blood smear stretched across the wall next to it, dried and old. No bodies, no signs of life. But the marks were fresh enough that something had happened here. Something violent. Milo scanned the panels. No logs. Power's too low. Backup systems are fried. June checked the medical lockers. All empty. Torn straps, broken glass. She found a torn glove floating near the ceiling, soaked in something dark. It wasn't just a dead ship. It was a place that had been left in a panic. They moved deeper, finding the main bay. Beds were overturned. One stretcher was still occupied, a skeleton half fused into the bedding. Something had kept this ship from venting, but time had still done its work. The crew likely died here. But then June stopped walking. Her light caught on something at the far end of the bay. A tall glass pod stood upright, covered in frost. The label on it read, "Biocontainment, do not open." The glass was cracked from the inside. Ray stepped forward, shining his light inside. It was empty. The others joined him, breathing heavier now. The inside of the pod had claw marks, long and deep, dragging down the surface like someone or something had tried to escape. But there were no other footprints. No signs of anything leaving. Eli's voice finally broke the silence. "Whatever was in there is still on the ship." Ray called for a sweep. "We find the logs, then we leave." Milo and June moved down the left corridor, Ray and Eli to the right. Doors creaked open slowly, revealing nothing but empty rooms, floating papers, and broken lights. But then, in one of the halls, Ray saw it. A smear, fresh, wet, and dark, stretched along the floor. He followed it to a storage room. There, on the floor, lay a boot. A human boot. But no foot inside. Just the boot. Still warm. Back on the other side, June heard something. A soft whisper like breathing, or a voice muffled by distance. She spun, but no one was there. Milo looked confused. "Did you hear that?" June nodded slowly. They both turned off their lights for a moment, listening. Nothing. Then, click. A metal sound from above. Both lights shot up toward the ceiling, but they saw only the long curve of pipe and wire. Nothing moved. But the sound had been real. A soft scratch like nails dragging on steel. In the next room, they found the ship's main terminal. It was half melted. Burn marks lined the wall beside it, and a pile of torn wires floated like seaweed in zero gravity. Milo moved closer to try pulling the hard drive. He reached under the console. His hand stopped. His face went pale. Something's warm. He pulled back. The underside of the terminal was slick, coated in something black and thick. It dripped slowly from the panel above like the ship was bleeding. Ray called for everyone to return to the docking point. "We've seen enough," he said. "We report it. Let command handle the rest." But as they moved to leave, the ship shook. Just once, a low, deep groan from the hull, like metal bending under weight. The lights flickered red, then black. Emergency locks clamped down. Air hissed out of the vents. A voice played softly from the speakers. "Quarantine in effect. Do not exit the vessel." Milo slammed the console. "That wasn't me." June tried her calm. Static. Ray pounded the airlock controls. Locked. Eli stood silent, staring at the cracked pod across the bay. Something moved in the darkness behind him, and it was watching. The air inside the ship felt colder now. Not the kind of cold that made you shiver. It was the kind that wrapped around your chest and squeezed, like the ship itself was trying to slow your breath. The emergency lights stayed off, leaving only the weak glow from their suits. Every step echoed too loudly. Every breath felt like it wasn't enough. They were trapped. Locked inside a dead ship with no way to contact their own. And something else was locked in with them. June walked ahead of the group, leading them back toward the medbay. She didn't speak. She was trying to stay calm, but her fingers kept shaking. Her flashlight flickered across the hallway walls, catching broken signs, rusted wires, and sharp claw marks that were never in the ship's original design. Behind her, Milo scanned each door they passed, trying to map the layout. The ship felt bigger now, like the hallways stretched too far. The corners curved in the wrong way. None of them had said it out loud, but each one was starting to feel the same thing. This place didn't want them to leave. Then June stopped walking. Her light hit something on the wall. A word scratched deep into the metal, over and over again. "Stay." She stared at it, frozen. The others caught up behind her, and Ray stepped beside her. He didn't say anything, just looked. The scratches were fresh. Some still had bits of torn glove fiber caught in them, like someone had written it with their bare hands, or whatever was left of them. Ray told them to keep moving. But then June heard it. A soft voice far away, barely above the sound of her breath in her helmet. It called her name. Once, then again. June. It was a voice she knew, one she hadn't heard in years. Her brother's. He'd died during a rescue mission 2 years ago, burned up in orbit. There hadn't even been a body to bury. But here, now, in this dead ship, she was sure it was him. She spun toward the sound. Her flashlight shook in her hand. The voice came again, softer this time. "June, I'm cold." She stepped away from the group, heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" she asked, turning to Ray. He shook his head. "Hear what?" She didn't answer. She was already walking down a side hall toward the medbay. Her steps were slow, almost like something was pulling her. Ray called after her, but she didn't stop. Milo followed close behind, his scanner beeping faintly. "Her vitals are spiking," he said. "Something's not right." They found her standing in front of one of the med pods. It was open. The inside was covered in frost. And above it on the wall was another message scratched into the steel. "I'm not dead." June reached out and touched the edge of the pod. Her hand trembled. "He's in here," she whispered. "He's still alive." Ray pulled her back. "No one's alive in here, June. This ship is playing tricks on us." She looked at him, eyes wide, like she wasn't sure what was real anymore. "I heard him. I swear I heard him." Ray turned to Milo. "Let's get to the control room. We need those logs. Something happened here, and it's still happening." As they walked away, June looked back once more at the pod. Just for a second, she saw her brother's face inside it. Eyes open, smiling. On the other side of the ship, Eli was alone. He wandered into the cargo bay while no one noticed. He stood still, staring at the rows of sealed crates. Most were empty, but one was open, just a crack. Inside was something dark, soft and wet. He didn't go closer. He just stared. Then the lights above him blinked once and a faint whisper filled the room. "You remember this place, don't you?" He didn't answer, but his lips were moving, like he was speaking to something only he could see. Back in the control room, Milo worked fast. He'd managed to get the power up for just a few seconds, enough to pull part of the last captain's log. The screen flickered, then cleared. A tired, shaking voice played through the speakers. "Do not open the biocontainment pod. We made a mistake. It doesn't kill. It waits. It listens. It copies their voices. It wants you to feel safe before it starts feeding." The recording cut off. Static returned. Milo turned to Ray. "What is it feeding on?" Ray didn't answer. He looked toward the hallway where June had gone. He was starting to understand. The fear, the pain, the memories, they weren't random. This thing, this creature, it knew what scared them the most, and it was using it. Suddenly, the hallway outside filled with a loud thud, then another. A slow, dragging sound moved past the door, like something wet being pulled across the floor. June screamed. They ran. At the end of the hall, they found her on the ground, shaking. Her suit was scratched across the back. 3 long marks cut into the fabric, but not deep enough to reach skin. She pointed toward the shadows. "It touched me. I didn't see it, but it was there." Her voice was tight, breaking. It whispered to me again. My brother's voice. He said I was already dead. Ray helped her up. We stay together. No one splits up again. But inside, he was scared. Not just for her, for all of them. Something was wearing their voices like masks, and it was getting closer. The silence had teeth now. Every corner of the ship felt like it was breathing, like something unseen was watching through cracks in the walls. No one spoke as they moved. Ray stayed up front, gun drawn but shaking in his grip. June walked close behind, her face pale, her hand never leaving the edge of the wall. Milo carried the only working scanner. Its screen flickered, lines bending like the ship didn't want to be mapped. Eli trailed behind. Too quiet, too still. Something was wrong with him, but no one had the words to ask. They followed a narrow hallway that sloped down, deeper into the lower decks. The path was lined with frost-covered lockers and old blood smears that hadn't frozen. The ship felt wrong down here. The temperature was colder, but none of them could see their breath. And even though the lights were dead, the metal walls gave off a faint red glow. Not from wiring, like it was alive under the surface, glowing faintly like skin under a bruise. Then they found the door. It was huge, bigger than any other door on the ship. A thick black metal panel sealed tight with warnings scratched into it. Not printed, scratched, over and over. The same sentence, "Shall I? Do not open." June's breath caught in her throat. Milo stepped closer. "Scanner's going crazy. There's something inside." Ray stared at the door. "Is it alive?" Milo didn't answer, but the scanner kept beeping, louder now. They opened the door. The smell hit first. Wet, hot, like metal soaked in rotting meat. The room inside was wide and round with dark red walls that pulsed gently, like they were part of a living thing. In the center was a ring of large pods. Each one stood taller than a man, filled with thick black liquid that didn't move. Wires ran into the ceiling, tubes ran along the floor, and inside each pod was a person, still alive. They weren't moving, but their eyes were open. Some were screaming with no sound. Others just stared blankly. One pod had scratch marks on the glass, smeared with blood. Another had fingernails floating inside. June stepped forward, staring into the face of a woman no older than her. "She's breathing," she said. "They all are." Ray's voice dropped to a whisper. "They've been here for years." Milo found a console nearby, still working, still warm. He pulled up the logs. His hands trembled. "These people, they're not dead. Their minds are awake, stuck in something the ship calls a neural loop. It's like a dream that never ends." Ray's eyes stayed on the pods. "What kind of dream?" Milo looked at the data. It shows brain spikes. Fear, pain, rage, over and over. It's feeding on them. It wants them afraid. One of the pods twitched. The man inside jerked forward, his face twisted in agony. His mouth opened wide, eyes rolling. June jumped back. "He's trying to scream." Then another pod lit up. A woman inside shook violently, like she was drowning in her own mind. Milo backed away. "It's responding to us. It knows we're here." A sound filled the room, soft at first, then louder. Breathing. Not from the pods, not from the crew, from the walls. June turned and stared at the far end of the room. A hole in the wall, wide and dark, like a tunnel made of flesh. Something moved inside it. A shape. Large. Slow. Crawling forward. It had no clear form, just long black tendrils stretching out, covered in thin, glowing veins. One of the tendrils touched the floor, and the metal hissed beneath it. Another slid toward the nearest pod, resting gently on the glass. And the pod responded. The lights inside grew brighter. The person inside screamed again, silently, mouth wide open, eyes full of terror. Ray raised his weapon. "What is that?" No one answered. June whispered, "It's the thing in the logs. The one they called a mercy leech." Milo's face was white. "It doesn't eat them. It keeps them. Makes them feel everything. Forever." The tendrils moved toward the group. Ray fired. The shot hit the wall, sparks flying. The tendril didn't flinch. It simply stopped, then shot forward. Fast. It grabbed Ray by the leg and pulled him backward. He hit the floor hard, sliding across the metal. "Ray!" June ran forward, grabbing his arm. Milo helped, pulling with all his strength. The tendril tightened, wrapping around Ray's waist. Then it spoke. A soft voice filled the air. Not from a speaker, not from the walls. From inside their heads. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," June screamed. The voice sounded like her brother. Milo dropped Ray's arm. The voice spoke again, this time as Ray's father, then as Milo's mother, then as someone none of them could recognize, but the tone felt warm, gentle, safe. "You're tired. I know. Let go. You'll never feel pain again." Ray stared at the others. "Don't listen to it," he choked out. "Don't let it touch you." But it was too late. Another tendril slid across the floor, wrapping around Milo's ankle. A third moved toward June. She grabbed a pipe from the wall and swung hard. The creature pulled back but didn't retreat. It wasn't afraid. It was just waiting. Ray screamed as the tendril lifted him into the air. His helmet cracked against the ceiling. His body went limp, but his eyes stayed open. And the last thing he said was, "I don't want to forget." Then the creature pulled him into the wall. Gone. The pods around them lit up again. More screaming, more motion. And then the room went silent. Just the soft pulse of the walls. Just the breathing. The mercy leech had started feeding again. We stumbled into the final chamber and the metal door slammed shut behind us. There was no going back now. The room was round and the walls curved upward like the inside of a dome. In the middle of the floor was a glowing circle. It pulsed slowly, as if breathing. Around the edge of the circle were carvings. Lines and shapes we had seen before. They looked like warnings, but it was too late to turn around. Jackson dropped to his knees, coughing hard. His skin was pale, almost gray. I dragged him away from the glowing circle, but he was too heavy. The lights on the walls flickered. A low hum filled the room, vibrating through our bones. We heard the click of metal gears turning somewhere above us, then the sound of something heavy sliding open. From the ceiling, a mass of long black tendrils uncurled and dropped slowly down. They moved like wet ropes, twisting and stretching. They weren't alive, not like animals, but they weren't machines either. Some were metal, some were flesh, and some looked like a mix of both. At the center of the tangle was a single eye, round and wide, staring straight at us. The air turned thick. Every breath burned like acid. Jackson began to shake and cry. The eye blinked once, and the tendrils stretched toward him. I stepped in front, arms out, but the tendrils didn't stop. They slid past me like I wasn't even there. One wrapped around Jackson's neck. Another pulled his leg. He screamed, but it didn't matter. The creature didn't want to kill him. It wanted to keep him. The tendrils lifted him off the ground. Jackson's mouth opened in a silent cry. He reached out for me, but I couldn't move. My legs were frozen. My heart was beating so fast I thought it might explode. Then the eye turned to me. That stare. It wasn't just looking. It was reading me, digging into my mind. I felt all my memories pulled forward like pages torn from a book. It knew me. It knew every fear I had ever buried. And then, it let me go. The tendrils dropped Jackson. He wasn't dead, but he wasn't alive either. His body lay limp. His eyes were wide, and he blinked slowly. He was breathing, but there was no one inside anymore. The thing had taken something from him. Something I couldn't name. I crawled to him, shaking, and touched his shoulder. He didn't move. I whispered his name again and again, but he didn't answer. Then I felt a hand grab my arm. It was Jackson. But his grip wasn't his own. His fingers were too tight, too strong. His eyes stared into mine, but there was no light in them. His lips moved, and he whispered, "It wants you to see." I was yanked backward by something invisible. The floor under me slid open, and I dropped into darkness. I landed hard in a narrow tube. The walls were glass. I was trapped inside. Outside the tube, I saw other people. Hundreds of them. Some were floating in tanks, others sat in chairs with wires in their heads. They weren't screaming, they weren't struggling, they were just still, like dolls waiting to wake up. I pounded the glass, but no sound came out. Then a screen lit up in front of me. It showed Jackson, sitting in a room like mine. He was smiling. His eyes were empty, but he smiled like everything was fine. A voice crackled from a speaker above. It wasn't a voice I could explain. It wasn't male or female. It wasn't human at all. But I understood what it said. You wanted to explore. Now you will see. Every pain, every fear, over and over, forever. The light inside my tube turned red. The walls began to shake. I felt a sharp jab in the back of my neck. My vision blurred and my body stopped listening to me. And then, I woke up. I was back on the ship, alone. Everything was quiet. Jackson was gone. The door was open. The hallway lights were back on. For a moment, I thought it was all a dream. I checked the logs. No sign of the chamber, no mention of the creature. But my neck still hurt. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw a small black dot under my skin. I tried to send a message to command. Nothing worked. The ship wasn't moving. The engines were offline. I was stuck in space, no sounds, no voices, just me, and the whisper of something watching. Something that didn't kill me, something that kept me buying so I could beg.